Hi, welcome to Laura's View and Tarot 2. I am so glad you're here. Today's date is Wednesday, March 26, 2025. Today there was an interesting tweet that was put out by the Deputy Director of the FBI here in the United States, Dan Bongino. I used it to create a thumbnail. I want to review that with you. And then I'm going to share a little journey I did, a data journey, before we ask the tarot if there's more insights that can be had about this topic. Let me take you to just a quick view again of that thumbnail I used for this video, and then we'll talk about some of the data. So here was the tweet by Dan Bongino. Today is March 26th, and I didn't swear in to waste your time or money. If you're committing crimes against children, you should probably expect a knock on your door soon, and it's not for a delivery. It's a bad day to be a bad guy. Now, before I continue with the share, I'm going to stop there. I wanted to share some chatter that was happening on alt media about that post. People were wondering, not too worried, is Dan unwise to be saying this? Is it alerting the bad guys to actions that are in process? I think probably anytime something like that comes out, there's already been an accounting. And even though we don't have the details yet, I wasn't too worried about it. I don't think you should be. And in the chatter, the consensus seemed to be, the less likely consensus was that this announcement is to prepare regular, ordinary, average, normal folks what's about to occur. Because we've never witnessed the rich and powerful being arrested. And so it doesn't usually happen with cameras rolling, does it? So that may be part of it, but the big consensus seemed to be that this announcement was meant to um, cause some fear, because fear causes emotions not in those at the top of that horrible food chain, but those that facilitate them and help them, because they're going to be held accountable for accessory before and after the fact, for racketeering, for kidnapping, unlawful detainer. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. For what those that help, aid and abet those that do that are going to be facing, which may facilitate having just cause to do some warrantless arrests and searches. But never fear, there's still plenty of indictments out there that are ready to be dealt with, that we don't have to wait for cause. So I went to the federal badboys.us database, and I looked at all 50 states, and I looked at, and plus Washington, D.C., to see just how many indictments were out there right now that regarded either human trafficking or crimes against little ones. Let's go back to that share screen, and I'll show you some of where I went and why as I was looking for information about, especially trying to do comparison with last year before Trump was in office, and now the first 66 days of 2025 and or his administration. So because we're still in the first 3 months, even though he didn't take office until the 20th of January, we're still in the first 3 months of 2025. And I thought, you know what? Let's see if there's some data that confirms. I mean, with 6 days left to go in the 90 days, you would think at the very least, if there's an uptick, it's going to be even. But in every case, no matter what way I phrased it, there was an uptick in consequencing for those two really disgusting categories: crimes against little ones and human trafficking. Okay, let's go to that share screen, okay? Okay. So again, here's his tweet. Then I went to the badboys.us and found out what the totals were for indictments right now that are available to be acted on. And remember, each indictment isn't necessarily for, it could be for large groups. So there's where I got the 7,374 currently for this topic, and for the human trafficking topic, 6,839. Now I don't have access to real-time data from my sources. So I picked a couple of large metropolitan areas, and I asked Grok on X to compare arrest logs for the first 66 days of 2024 and 2025. Here was the conclusion that Grok came up with. Checking for New York City, 2024 versus 2025, there's possibly as much as a 20 to 50% jump. there's anywhere between 52 and 132 more arrests happening in 2025. In Washington, D.C., there is still a substantial, maybe not quite as, actually, it's really similar, 22 to 51% jump. Now, understand that some of this is impacted by the fact that there is, this is the large metropolitan areas, just what was going on as far as arrest logs. Then I tried to see what the U.S. Marshals have been doing because they often have actions that provide arrests for those topics. In the first 90 days of 2024, they had 40 to 60 arrests for, this was just checking their news topics, okay, for crimes against children and trafficking. And then so far, they've had in the first 66 days of 2025, there have been 50 to 100. So a huge uptick with fewer days in the calculation. So again, a big uptick there. So I tried to look again with the marshals. I tried to look at the federal database and just try to find some public accessible information about that topic. It does look like, because no matter how I phrased it, whether I looked at metropolitan areas or whether I was looking at the U.S. Marshal Service, there definitely seems to be an uptick in those areas that is gratifying as far as I'm concerned, because there's no excuse for those crimes not to be harshly punished and immediately acted upon. So that's where I want to ask the questions to the universe today. The Deputy Director of the FBI has made that statement that it's a bad day to be a bad guy, especially if you're doing crimes against little ones. And if you follow or have had any previous access to the posts that were done by the 17 team, they have often said that this is the topic that will unite the world. And indeed, I don't see either side of the political aisle able to defend those type of crimes. There's just no way they can. They've tried to normalize it so they can, but it hasn't been successful, thank goodness. So let's just ask, we want insights and information. Will we be able to, I had to dig to get this data that I shared with you. I think that should be pretty obvious. Is it going to be much more apparent that there is accountability actions going on for crimes against little ones or the trafficking that we were talking about, plus additional insights and information? So let's see what the universe wants us to know, because I want this progress to be substantial, undeniable, in the news, and very self-evident. And I hope you do too. But let's see what the universe wants us to know. I'm going to switch the camera. You can watch and work with the cards, and we'll find out together. Okay, because I want a yes or no element to this question, because now we can get affirmative nods without an ace, but it's always fun to watch for those aces, which definitely are strong, hard yeses. So will we be able to, we being those of us watching the news for, and maybe even those of us that weren't intentionally watching the news, for information about arrests and convictions for people who are guilty of crimes against little ones or human trafficking? Are we going to see a noticeable uptick in those, as Dan Bongino has promised? And indeed, some of the data that I was able to uncover, is it going to be a little more self-evident? And is it going to be super successful plus additional self-evident and successful plus additional insights and information? Our first card is the Queen of Cups. Then we have the Three of Swords. We have the Four of Wands. That's interesting. I'll explain why. Then we have the Nine of Swords, Knight of Wands, the Tower, and the Five of Cups. Now, If this was a person's read, it would be very concerning. There would be really no way in good conscience you could put a good spin on it. But we're asking about, hey, what kind of outcomes are those people that have crimes against little ones are they going to face those consequences? And we're getting a very definite yes here. It's going to be noticeable. It's going to be, and we'll get a few more cards to see just for additional insights and information. But again, this is a tough topic. It's an emotional one. So we have the Queen of Cups showing up here for the topic. It is tough. It's heartbreaking. Okay, that and there's been a lot of cover up and obfuscation about that. You know what happened under the Getty, in shipping containers, etc. It's a tough topic. Absolutely. So, and yeah, and they've had some cover up that's happened in the past. Now, here's why I'm saying this is interesting. For the recent past, we have the Four of Wands, which talks about kind of like working together, which may be like ICE and the FBI and the US Marshals. This announcement today by Dan Bongino actually is after the fact. They've had some big successes that we'll be hearing about. Now, in the current, we have the Nine of Swords. Again, this isn't meant to be reassuring for the bad guys, but just letting us know that if we're concerned about the news that we hear about the apprehensions and the arrests and stuff, they're going well. First of all, there's not as much to worry about as you think. So we're going to have more bad guys that are held accountable. So don't worry that some of them are going to buy their way out of trouble or that kind of thing. It's not going to happen for them like you would think. Moving forward, we have the Knight of Wands. Now, here's just a strong energy card. He is ready to go and deal with this situation, and it is going to create some tower moments for the bad guys. Absolutely. They can anticipate their lives no longer being successful and accountability happening and sadness for them, not for us. It's going to go well. Okay, now I say that. Let's get a few more cards and see what we get. We've got the Eight of Pentacles, Page of Swords. We have the Ten of Wands and the King of Swords, one of my white hat cards showing up here. So let's talk about how these layer in and add to the information. Okay, again, tough topic. But yeah, the accounting is coming. Now, the efforts that Dan Bongino talked about in that tweet today, they're just one of many avenues that they are going about dealing with this problem and stopping this epidemic of crimes against little ones. And the Page of Swords just tells us that there is a lot of truth to what we're being told, first of all, but it's a very there's a lot of thoughtful effort that's gone into these apprehensions and this push and this focus on crimes against little ones being addressed and as much as possible halting. The further insight cards, the final ones, are the Ten of Wands. Yeah, this is going to be, again, this is going to be the final topic that could potentially wake people up and help them to start using their critical thinking and some of their logic. Okay, we know some people just are determined not to wake up, but this is it. Just like Q said, it's going to be the topic that does it, makes or breaks it. The King of Swords for our final card just lets us know the white hats are on, that this is definitely a focus, and a lot of really good, dedicated, talented people are addressing this finally and closing some avenues of moving those little ones and harming them. And it is going to be a successful endeavor. And there we have it. So let's recap. Today, in a tweet, Dan Bongino, the deputy director for the FBI, said that it was a bad day to be a bad guy, especially if you'd been involved in crimes against children. And so we did a little digging, looked at some statistics about that, and talked about the fact that right now there are thousands of indictments nationwide that are ready to go that involve that topic, plus thousands more. Specifically, the crimes against little ones, the word that starts with P, there are 7,374 indictments that have been unsealed. They're ready to go on. Human trafficking indictments, 6,839. So there's lots there to work with. And indeed, when we asked the universe, are we going to be able to more publicly, and I shared how I kind of searched for data today, going between the Bad Boys US, which lists the indictments, tells you how many are still sealed. Then I went and did some comparison with arrest logs for a couple of big metropolitan areas, New York City and DC in particular, on those two areas, and comparing 2024 to 2025. It did show that there had already been an uptick. And then we looked at, last one I looked at news releases from the U.S. Marshal Service from 2024 to 2025. Again, an uptick in those categories. I had to search for it. So my question was, is it going to get more self-evident and obvious, or so that people won't have to dig? It's going to be very obvious that this is a seriously addressed topic and area that our justice departments are focusing on. We didn't get an ace with this particular read, but we got some information, and I'll just share what we got with you. First of all, in the recent past, up showed the Four of Wands, which is kind of a success card, and it talks about things happening, stable, functioning. It kind of gave us a clue that Dan's announcement really is happening after the fact of some information that is not quite available to us yet. Although there's some out there, like there is someone that's been brought back up. The U.S. Marshals brought back someone from Belize that needed to face charges. So we're getting some information, but yeah, there's going to be more because it's actually this is a card of ongoing success. Bad time to be a bad guy was confirmed over. Yeah, they're not going to be happy. They're going to be facing tower moments. Absolutely. And the push to have them face that accountability is very much not only a priority, but it's not, they've only got a little of it. There's a lot more to come, a lot more to come. And then the final card, the Ten of Wands, yeah, kind of confirmed what we've always heard from the 17 team, that this is the topic that will unite the world. This is the one that's going to do it. That's going to be the final topic that either wakes people up or brings them together and consolidates as much as possible we can the human collective to say, this can't happen again. It is not right, and there's no way to justify it. So I know there's been a push to try to normalize it, but if something has to be normalized, it's anything but. That's Laura's view, and you get that with the tarot too. So that's it for this video. I thank you so much for your time and your attention, and I appreciate each and every one of you. If you're willing to receive it, I send you love, light, and I wish for you everything bright. By the way, yesterday I got many, many, many happy birthday wishes, and I thank you so much for those. It really brightened my day. Until next time, be well.